By my watch at 7 o'clock, call this meeting of the Goshen Board of Education to order. Mr. Tinkle, if you'll call the roll.
Mrs. Werking.
Here.
Mrs. Paprocki.
Here.
Mr. Herrera. Here. Mrs. Gray.
Here.
Mr. Benting.
Here. At this time, I'll have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Schinkel, you call the roll.
Mrs. Werking.
Yes.
Mrs. Paprocki.
Yes.
Mr. Herrera.
Yes.
Mrs. Gray.
Yes.
Mr. Benting.
Yes. At this time, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, we'll have Mr. Bailey lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time, we'll have a facilities update and village impacts of the county.
I'm going to try, this is why we rearranged a little bit because I can't look out at you guys and feel like I'm talking to you. So I'm going to talk off of the slide. November 20th at our last meeting, as you remember, we went through our whole timeline and we voted on a resolution to proceed with our phase one, $26 million project. And as we've said all along, we've been watching county trends. I've been trying to make sure that we were understanding where the county was at. Well, on Wednesday of last week, Tuesday of last week, they certified the revaluation for Claremont County, which had an impact that we were expecting. And I want to preface that it's still a $26 million project. It's still phase one. We have not changed anything with that. So it's still adding classroom space at the high school, Spalding Middle School, multi-use at the high school, food service at the high school, renovated small group space at the other three buildings, and the improved site traffic renovations. So with that said, the new taxable value for Claremont County has made a significant impact, estimated impact, whereas you saw on the last one, when we voted it in, we were at 3.9 mils on 35 years. And at this point, it has come to estimated what our bond council has given us. 26 million, 35 years, 4.5% is at 2.83 mils, which is below $100 a year on $100,000, or estimated $8 a month on $100,000 appraised. So Todd, if you want to talk just briefly on that reeval and where I know he's got a sheet on your desk that kind of quickly explains that countywide.
Yeah, so there's the bar graph in the county. So this is what we got, and this is everyone in the county. This is their assessed value. So you got the bar graph. And then on the second page, I highlighted our school district. That's where we are in the county in regards to the assessed value. So this is the 35% number that we got. So basically, if you divide it by 1,000 on our millage, 474,000, that's what we're going to be getting per mill approximately. And that just shows you where we kind of rank through there. I did just do the quick math just to give you an idea. Like Milford to us, if you look at that, if for every mill they get, it takes us 5 mills to equal their 1 mill. So if we were running something, if you see that, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're sitting at. But anyway, so we got that number. That was a huge, we expected an increase, but that was like a really big one. So what happened was I asked the chief deputy auditor, could you just tell us ballpark what our millage would be now that you have this amount? And they ballparked about 2.9 mils. So that's what triggered all this conversation. I was like, a mill, I mean, that's, if they would have said 3.6 versus 3.9 or something like that, would have been okay. I mean, it's not worth starting, going through this process. So anyway, after we got this, and then it got Warren County, the next two is just Warren County, and I put that on there so you showed. We just asked about the process, and we had to basically start over. So that's what triggered us to go through. The thing that we don't have to do is get the permission again to exceed the debt limitation. So we don't have to do that step, but we kind of have to go back through this whole process here. So that's what kind of triggered, all of us to get to that.
So while we're going through this process, and as Todd said, 2.83 from bond council, Claremont County estimated somewhere around 2.9. So I imagine after we do this today, we send the certificate to Claremont County and they'll give us the definite language for the ballot. But while we're doing that, we're also keeping in mind a couple things here that I want to bring to your guys' attention. We've got that new taxable value, but we're also working on this USDA loan and the interest rate. I think the last words the guy said, we're a shoe-in for it. We just have to finish the application. We're working through that with our architects and working through some architectural renderings. But should we get that and it be at, the same value there, it's going to take it to 2.66 mils. The other piece that we're still watching and still really, I think, advocating for as a school district, and I know you guys are, is there's some tax relief for seniors and possibly some econ structure tax relief on this new assessed value. And if it should go to the 23% 3-year average, it would take us, this is where bond council ran through this at, to 3.16 mils. But where I'm most comfortable at, because of the USDA loan, is that it would keep us right at that 2.9 that we're expecting. If we got the USDA and they cut or they did some tax savings through state law changes, it would still put us roughly right there at that 2.9 mils. So again, to go from 3.9 to 2.9 with all that's going on in the county, I think we always look at this, we said it's the most fiscally sensitive proposed ballot issue that we could put on, that gives us phase one, that gives us what we need. So, from that, to just begin this process over, to walk through to get on the ballot March 19th at 2.8, 2.9, somewhere where it settles there with the county auditor. We won't know the USDA at this time, but we have a really good feeling that will come out and we'll get a much lower interest rate when the time comes. So any questions on that?
Can you go back to the last slide,
Yes.
USDA and
Yes.
that bill? So that's one if the tax relief for the senior.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. It has the state law changes, and we've heard a little bit of everything. There was a legal update that came out on Friday. The House and Senate are still working on it. It's just they've got to come together on one joint package and see where that comes out. But there is going to be some type of relief. And again, all of these are talking about a 3-year relief. So it'll phase that property tax valuation in over 3 years is what it sounds like. And you're still at the end going to be paying what was evaluated. So.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, hearing that, don't have anybody for public participation. Do I have a motion for a resolution declaring the necessity of issuing the bonds, submitting the question to the electors of the school district, and directing the official officer to apply for authority to exceed the 4% debt limitation?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Schenkel, you call the roll?
Mrs. Paprocki,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benteen,
Yes.
Mrs. Working.
Yes.
Does anybody have anything else? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Schenkel, you call the roll?
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Benteen,
Yes.
Mrs. Working,
Yes.
Mrs. Paprocki.
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned.